So, the real question, how do you stay awake on set?
How do I stay awake on
Yeah.
set? I mean, I have a whole different energy when I'm on set, man. That's just where I belong. I think naturally I have energy. That and an unhealthy amount of energy drinks. Yeah.
Die young, make movies.
Which I did make an effort. The last time we shot on Friday, it was at 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. And I didn't get any energy drinks for Crafty. Because I was like, we're outside filming. I'm going to die if I have too many energy drinks.
A lot of people are real bougie with their coffee. Like everyone was like, no, we're not going to drink your homemade coffee. We need Starbucks or an espresso of some kind, like or
Seriously?
cold brew or.
Dang, man, I'm cool with Folgers, dude.
Yeah, no. Hi, and welcome to Indie Film Hub podcast. I'm Rhodes Farrell, your host, and today we have with us Silas Rowland. We're going to be talking about some unconventional filmmaking techniques or paths getting into it, and all of the above or below that title. But this is episode 9, so thank you for tuning in. If you want to see our faces, we are on YouTube as well, if you're listening to this on Spotify. If you're on YouTube already, you can not look at our faces and go to Spotify.
Yes, if you're on Spotify, I recommend staying on Spotify because you don't want to come on YouTube and see this mop that's happening here, man.
Well, I mean, because I can turn around and not look at you.
I know. I know when they're hearing my voice on Spotify, they're probably picturing me as like Ryan Gosling or Ryan Reynolds or something, and then they get on YouTube and look at me, and it's like Joe Dirt meets Chris Farley. You know, so yeah, stay on Spotify.
Cool. So yeah, unconventional filmmaking. You kind of had not a traditional path into filmmaking.
Right.
Where'd you start?
So, you know, a lot of times, like when people are like, "Oh, you're a filmmaker," whether it's another filmmaker saying it or just a regular person, like, "What movie made you want to become this film director or make movies?" And it's kind of funny. I never watched any piece of cinema and was like, "This is what I want to do. This is the kind of thing I want to get into." And so my background actually started in it was just, and I guess in some sense it did, but like, you know, I used to skateboard growing up. And so I guess it wasn't movies. It was more so like skateboard videos and just seeing like all the hijinks, especially like with companies like Baker Skateboards and whatnot. Their skate videos were more than just skating. It was like just a bunch of other cool, goofy stuff. And so, you know, me and the skate crew around like age 11, 12, got a video camera and we started making our own videos and, you know, shooting us doing some cool tricks, shooting us doing some probably unsafe stuff. And then, you know, from there I would run with the footage and do all the editing. And it just slowly became this process where I fell in love with doing that versus skateboarding. So I was like, put the skateboard away. Now I want to make videos. Now it's me and my friend in front of the camera with toy guns or airsoft guns pretending to be in a
and
war
those are still
flick.
live on YouTube. People can go see those.
Yes. Dude, there's some cringy ones on there, man. So it was partially that, and it was also another kind of thing that got me into it, probably more so than that, was I loved playing pretend. I loved going outside with my brothers and like creating these narratives in our heads that were kind of like, it's like live action role play, I guess.
I don't think that sounds weird. I think everyone listening is like, yeah, I pretend. It sounds great.
Yeah. And that got me into writing. So I wasn't really good at writing then, and I probably still am. I probably am not good at it now.
Not speaking though.
Right, I can't, right. The whole writing thing and these stories that were in my head, I always had this fascination with how do I get someone like you to see exactly what's in here? Filmmaking became this vessel to where I'm able to get these ideas out of my head and into other people's head, and therefore it's like releasing this pressure valve to where it cleared. You know, once I hand over the idea for other people to enjoy, now my brain and my mind's got more room to generate new ideas. And so it became this endless process, and that's what it is today, is like I get an idea for a film, turn it into a script, shoot it, present it, and then I can move on to the next one because there's more room.
You do all this crazy work just to have a brain dump and clear your mind?
Right. I guess so, dude. Okay, it's a brain dump.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of work.
You're telling me, man.
But so you did YouTube. You kind of got into it. I had to pick a movie because people were asking me. That's kind of what you ask often.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, Matrix, because I came out of there like wanting to punch people.
That's awesome.
But my brother, I was like 14. My brother brought me into a rated R movie, so it's a really cool experience. But yeah, I don't really have a specific moment where I was like, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I started an audio, and then I was like, oh, I have a camera in my hands.
Okay, yeah, I think you told me that before, yeah.
So I just started to get into it, and then, and now I've done this whole thing, and now I'm just like, I just want to build community.
Right.
I love this. I love the filmmaking community.
I want to do the opposite because I'm antisocial. No. Right, yeah.
So you got into filmmaking. You're in your career. You were working at Gerber. I guess that's inside knowledge. Is there anything else that you worked at doing videography as like a job?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I actually started my company. And
it
was either
Silas,
freshman
Rowland?
or... No,
It was different?
I think at that time it was called Green Glass Capture.
Okay.
Right.
Speaking of which, Silas, Rowland Film Co. at
Rowland Film Co.
Rowland Film Co. for Instagram. And
actually on Instagram, it's a whole different story. Instagram is at Big Daddy Director, baby. Yeah. They go, what? Oh, what were we just talking about before that?
Your job, your Green Glass.
Oh, okay. So Green Glass Capture, we were doing commercial content. Like I was doing commercials and stuff, which was crazy. I was always like emailing these businesses and like not giving away that like, hey, I'm a 16-year-old kid. I was like emailing like, hey, I do video, like blah, 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 blah. And so it's funny because every time I always met up with these people, they're like, I wasn't expecting a kid, you know? I have an instance where, when I met Brett Tolliver, he got cast in one of my first short films, and he still talks about it today that like I'm the first director that's ever got dropped off by their dad to film. And so did the whole wedding thing for a while. I did not like that.
Everyone does.
I got out of that quick. I was like, nope. I did HVAC for a while.
I didn't know that.
Right, yeah. I did for about 6 months. And it was a turning point where, it was like, give up on your dreams or get a regular job. 6 months into that, I got a call for a film to come on as like a PA or something, right? And I'm like, okay, they're paying. And so I was on my way to the HVAC job and drove straight past it and never looked back. I ended up getting hired onto that film and ultimately worked my way up on that film as a camera op and then the editor of the film. And so that was like a 2-year stint on that. And then I partnered up with the guys at GVL Media, Sit and Spin, recording studios and whatnot. We kind of did a mesh of a company together, and we were doing commercial corporate jobs. We got to go to Scotland to shoot a documentary. So I still
don't know how people get travel jobs. Like,
right,
I don't know.
I lucked out, man. I mean, like again, like I always say, like from my background, like the way I grew up, I never thought I was going to leave the state. Yeah. Like I just thought I was going to just be stuck here forever. So to go to Scotland, and I was even there on my birthday, so it was like cool. Like they shut down the bar. They were like singing "Happy Birthday," doing haggis bombs. Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, that's so weird. I love Scotland, man. You can't even sometimes like. It's weird because they're speaking English and you can't understand a word they're saying. It's like they're speaking the same language.
Can't understand you.
Right. Dude, I'd be like, what? I think the more drunk I got, though, the better I got at understanding them because we started sounding the same. So that led into, I built up this enterprise. Things were really good in sort of more the commercial corporate sense, where I was mainly acting as a cinematographer, editor. And then on the side, I'm still doing my short film narrative stuff. I've done a few features at this point too, where I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. But I got to work on a level as a producer and executive producer. So it introduced me to like more the business side of stuff. Then COVID happened. And so when COVID happened, I left the GVL Media guys and I was like, dude, I'm wasted. I'm just like, I'm completely beaten down right now from all of the stuff we've been building. And then COVID comes around and Crash is a lot of that. So I'm like, all right, man, let me take the easy way out. For a year, I'm gonna work a regular job that's just straightforward. Show up, do some video, and that was Gerber.
COVID was one of my busiest years.
COVID was good for me at the beginning of it, but it caused a lot of issues with some of the personnel I was working with. So when I left those guys, I wasn't able to take any of the clients. So it was almost starting from scratch. And so that's where I went to Gerber. I'm like, I'm going to be here for a year. I'm going to get back on my whole thing. Ended up staying for 2 years because I just loved the people I was working with. I was like, okay, I just show up, do some video, do some editing. I get a paycheck. I don't have to do any thinking outside of like that. But that itch for what I really wanted to do in life came I started listening to podcasts. I never was a podcast guy. So I'm sitting there editing at Gerber, listening. I think it was Indie Film Hustle. And they're just saying all this stuff that's like clicking with me. And I'm like, I know this, or I need to go. Why am I not putting this knowledge that I have to the test? So I think I ended up leaving Gerber July 7th of 2023. And my thing was like, I'm just going to go make movies. And so that's where I'm at right now, making movies, which has been a headache. And part of me is like, I want to just go back to working a regular film job.
Why do you say you're making movies after COVID when this whole time since you were 14 you've been making movies per se?
It's a lot different. A lot of that was attached to the people I was working with. So it relied heavily on their influence or, them calling the shots. And with the movie I'm doing now, All That Is Evil, this is the first film I feel like that's mine, that I'm responsible for, that nobody's telling me what shots to call, that I'm not obligated because, somebody put money into it.
When do you feel you started calling yourself a director?
I think I've always called myself a director. I think I started believing it, which is funny because it's really a project that I don't care about. But like once I did the feature doc, the paranormal one, and it's out there on Tubi and it's getting like these reviews and stuff, I was like, okay, now I can tell people I'm a director, and they're going to be going somewhere that isn't just YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to be, they can search me and they can find my projects across multiple streaming platforms. So that gave me the confidence to start speaking it publicly.
Official credit.
Right.
Yeah.
That now people can look it up and be like, well, where do I find your Google me, dude.
I mean, everyone calls themselves a DP or director, but
right.
You look at their work and sometimes you're...
I think most of my career was me wanting to be a director, and I did direct on certain projects, short films that I created, and even a feature before that, but I think most of my career was me being a DP producer.
So for that first job to get the credit, I mean, you had to have done so much experience to prove that you could direct and to then believe you are a director. So how does that little hurdle get?
This falls partially into the unconventional thing. I don't think I need any official this or that or certification from anybody.
Yeah.
I think it's all internal. So even me, like, I think I confidently years ago could have said I'm a film director, and I could have been just as right as I am now. So I don't think that I don't think there was any level of, I'm never waiting on somebody. That's the thing, is never wait on somebody to give you permission to do anything or be anything. So I can't really speak to that point that like...
I know, I want to get to a point that like there's so many people that call themselves a director, but you call yourself a director. What makes you different? Because you actually are directing. You actually are knowledgeable at what directing is.
Right.
You have proof in the pudding.
Yeah, I would say...
But there's so many people that make something and it's just kind of like, okay,
yeah, that's a lot of first-timers or a lot of people that jump right into something without knowing a whole lot. Like, I think even as an unconventional filmmaker such as myself, you have to understand what is conventional and what the process is and how things work. A lot of people will want to be a film director because they want the title. Yeah. They don't want to do the labor, the work, and all the intensive stuff that goes into it. So I don't, a lot of people will call themselves this and that, but like at the end of the day, like, are they going to be able to duplicate that process tomorrow and continue to call themselves that? Because you could slap anything on it.
Yeah.
I can wear a T-shirt right now that says coach, and call myself a coach, but I've never coached in my life.
I feel like I have all the technical knowledge to be a director, but no like creative passion to be a director. So that's why I'm not going for that. I'm not calling myself a director.
Right. You have, so you're saying you have no creative passion to do it? I think you're a great director. The Do Not Dispose or whatever was amazing.
But I was more producer, and I did direct it, but I was more producer, and I just like putting the pieces together. Jaffrey really had a great hand in like helping choose shots and figuring out the artistic side of it.
Right.
And I was just kind of correcting some actors and then making sure all the production side of things was happening properly. And
I think on our scale, though, that's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it is. But
yeah.
I
don't think on our scale you can just be a director.
I just don't. It's not. I mean, I want to direct a feature, a family-friendly Halloween dark comedy.
And I want to produce it. Let's do it.
I want to direct that one.
Yeah.
But aside from that, and maybe like a few other projects, I'm not like pursuing that area of things. I like camera op. I like producing. I like sound.
And but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, even in Hollywood, you see, I don't know the guy's name, but he was a stunt coordinator for like forever.
Yeah.
And a stunt performer forever. And I think within the last like 15 years or so, he's became a film director. And so it might not be one of those things where like, I'm going to force myself into this. I'm going to be the director, and then that's it. Like you may have a passion. Your craft and your journey may be putting you somewhere else, and you may ultimately end up in another position down the line.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't let that be a headache to you. I mean, kind of do what you want to do in the moment, and then have a plan, but like don't.
Well, how did you land on director and not something else like producer?
So I think for me, it was just a matter of, where I got my start was me creating the ideas and wanting to see them through and deliver them what I visually see to other people in my head. So
I would say part of it would probably, because you started writing.
Right.
I don't write. So that's probably a big part of it.
Writing is a big part of who I am. Yeah. And as a director, as a filmmaker, writing. Because like a lot of the things I produce is probably 90% what I spawn in my head, I do get outsourced for and work on other projects, but I mean I think ultimately it was always going to end. And for a stint there though, it was maybe I don't want to direct and write and do this stuff. I mean it was always there. I'm not going to lie, but me doing the cinematography and the editing, I think the cinematography stuff I got a high on because I still got to visually showcase what I was seeing in my head. But it wasn't as fulfilling because it wasn't always necessarily a story that I generated or created. Yeah. So that's where it eventually drove to the point where I have to write the story. I have to oversee it and see it through. But yeah.
If you're up for talking about it, I mean, you've been burnt a couple times by some people.
I've been.
Yeah. How does that play into your
naughty,
your unconventional?
I've been burnt quite a few times, but I think it happens to everybody. Yeah. Honestly, I think I'm so lucky because it happened so young. I mean, it happened when I was like 20.
Yeah.
So, getting burnt happens to everybody. It happened to me early on, and so I don't think it did too much damage for me in going, I'm going to just give up. I got screwed over. Or I'm never going to trust people again. I think it did harden me to not believe everything I hear. And I think even then, maybe part of me was still like, didn't believe everything. I wanted to, but moving forward from that, I think getting burnt also helped me realize what my own goals were. And so I think a lot of the conventional process will tell you like either work your way up the ladder and just keep doing that. And that's more of that corporate mindset. And then another part of that is like you'll make a movie and then every distributor in the world is going to knock down your door to want that movie, or you'll write a script and Lionsgate's going to want to purchase it for you. And so in that early stage, that was part of the process too, is like, you're thinking that I'm going to make this movie and the whole world's going to want to see it. And so what I've sort of gone into is like, I'm just going to make movies that are on a particular caliber that do good. I don't care. Another conventional process would be, hey, you need name talent in your film. And I say, no, the hell you don't, you know? And that's what the trap people falls into, where they start putting, Eric Roberts is in 300 movies. And they're like, man, we can get Eric Roberts for our thing. And it's like, nobody gives a shit, you know? It's like the only star you need to try to get is the A-listers, and they're not gonna do it, you know? You can try to sneak in some cameo roles from like some classic film actors and stuff like that, but man, I think like if you make a good, like, if you can make a good movie, it's gonna stand on its own regardless, and you just gotta be honest with yourself that it's not gonna be, whatever these producers that approach you.
I think finding a good producer will help you more in the long run, because
I think so. Yeah.
They're going to be able, if you do get a talent, they're going to be able to negotiate that deal, or they're going to
Right.
be able to find the funding for you in the different ways. They're going to do better marketing and advertising for you and distribution. Right. So
well, that's kind of but then again, I think that's the conventional process of relying on somebody else you're waiting for them to tell you how to do it.
I just mean like that role everyone should know. Everyone should know business.
Right. Right. And that's kind of where I've built myself up. Outside of the director-writer has been more of like, business. Be my own sales rep, Yeah. I'll find my own distribution plan.
You got your own investments and stuff.
Right, and where it fits in. Figuring out where everything fits in, and not just like, a lot of times people be like, I'm making this kick-ass movie, man. And then they're just going to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, right? And I think that's where a lot of people mess up, is like, I'm not over-promising on what we're going to do, even with All Those Evil. I'm like, man, we're going to probably do really kick-ass just from a lot of the local community support on theatrical local premieres, and then we'll put it on streaming platforms, and I know it's going to do pretty well. It's in the horror space, or scary movie space. Every time I say horror, people think I say horror. Yeah, I got a few like speech impediments. I'm making a horror film. What? I feel like I derailed on that, but I think ultimately at the end of the day is like, getting burnt is part of the process, regardless if you're, doing it the straightforward way or the alternate pathway. And I faced it. And if you're in the film industry and you're, I doubt you might not face it as much if you're slowly working up the ladder, and more so the traditional corporate sense in the film industry.
Yeah.
And I can't say that for certain, but I think once you start accelerating at a rapid speed like I was doing, you're gonna face a lot of scam artists.
Yeah. So the traditional path: go to school,
Right.
be a PA on several sets, find the department you want to go into, and just start building your way up the ladder there.
Which, if I could go back and do, I would probably do that.
Yeah. So you would recommend that?
Partially.
Yeah.
I mean,
you didn't do any of that.
Maybe not.
You PA'd a little bit.
Maybe not. I can't say that, because it's probably the reason I would probably, if I went back and did it, would just to see like what it did do for me.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't speak on it. I can't say that it's going to make you ultra successful, because I didn't go to film school.
If you go back to the podcast where I'm talking with Ashley, we talk a little bit about going to school and pathways into filmmaking. So you can go back and listen to that one. But I like that YouTube and the accessibility of cameras and stuff like that has opened up filmmaking to so many more people, and they're not going to school necessarily. They're learning on the job, and they're taking more of the unconventional path.
Right.
But there are benefits for sure.
I think so.
Having a built-in network, having access to gear, having a better reel coming right out of school to show what you can do, or
on the opposite side of that spectrum, though, I was actually, got that investor check and went to open up the bank account, and I was like telling the bank dude, I'm like, yeah, I'm making a movie, man. He's like, no way, like in Bowling Springs, Inman, South Carolina. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. And apparently he knew somebody that their son went to film school, and he's like, well, man, hell, I should get him to come work for you. He's like, because he went to film school and all this, and he's getting connections and stuff, but all the connections is for him to come work as an intern in California or New York
for $5 an hour. I know.
Right. And I'm like, dang, yeah. So it might not all, but then again, like too, that's also, I think it's like 50% what you know, what you're not. I don't believe in like any certification.
Oh yeah, you have to move to Atlanta, Chicago,
Right.
New York, LA. You have to move to one of those places to be successful.
I don't think so, man.
No.
We're about to blow up.
We're doing
We're
it right.
about to blow this upstate up, boy. Seriously, man. I mean, there's quite a few people that have reached out to me from Asheville, Charlotte, and Atlanta. So it's like we're kind of in the middle of all that. So I think we lucked out with how that. It's weird. It's like the industry's like circling us, and they're gonna come in for us, which is awesome. And I just want like us, the ones that are already in here, to have established ourselves enough to when that happens, we don't get washed out. We don't get like overtaken. Like we need to be the assets that when they come in to the state, that we're like, yo, what's up? You know. So we need to all get our shit together, man.
I got to put a little plug. A little unconventional thing that I've noticed is that we have a really strong community.
We do.
And a lot of people don't have that unless you're in a major city. And even still, it's kind of shady because you can't trust anybody. But here, we have a pretty strong community. Everyone's helping each other all the time, trading projects, and we're putting out some pretty good stuff.
I think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait till you guys see all the people.
So what I'm saying is, don't get too big that you have to move away from us. What are some unconventional tactics or practices you put into your filmmaking?
A lot of its mindset is don't, and it's so difficult to speak to sometimes because it's like,
because there's something you're doing that other people aren't.
First thing I want to say is don't be completely oblivious to the fact that there are proper methods that you do have to do things a certain way. You can't just completely, go off the rails. I mean, you can. I don't know if I encourage it. But the way, too, I look at it is like, this comes back to the whole HVAC thing. So that's a whole industry, right? To where, and there's a million different companies that offer HVAC services. And it's pretty straight line how to fix an air unit. Nobody's doing it different. The only difference is the people that work for the companies, right? Or the different logos for the companies. But to fix an HVAC unit, like, it's science. Filmmaking to me is not so cut and dry like that. Mm-hmm. So there is a process. There's, especially with the business side, but even then, you can kind of make your own there. Unconventional processes, don't let anybody tell you what sort of movie you can make or should make, or don't just follow trends. And I think, I don't know, man, live life as a trendsetter. Like, people are going to tell you, well, that kind of genre is not hot right now. Here I am right now, though, doing a horror film or a scary film. I keep saying horror film. So, yeah, processes for unconventional filmmaking, man, ultimately is just have kind of I can do whatever I want attitude. And whatever, resource you think you need to achieve that. Because filmmaking, especially directing, is all about creative solutions. So you might not have the budget to do this giant epic car crash through a gas station. What's going to be a lot more affordable to that, or affordable, is going to be like building a miniature and
Hot
crashing
Wheels and Legos.
Right. Seriously. And so think about that across the whole process of filmmaking.
Yeah. Is
that, there's like the ultimate way to do it, but what are these other steps and other things that you can do to maneuver to get through? And so that becomes the unconventional process.
No, I mean, you taught a class for Film Bar recently. We actually talked about this with Rachel on another podcast. Is like, do you write the story for what you can do, or do you just write the story for what you want it to be?
Right.
And you answered, do it for what you want it to be, so that you can creatively figure out a way to do that. And it may not be
and you may have to change stuff.
$10 million, but...
Right, and you may have to change stuff. I mean, I run into that issue a lot, even on set of the film I'm doing now, where it's like, somebody, like, it's funny, because I'm the writer, so it's like, a lot of times as the writer, you're like, every bit of it is so valuable that, like, you hope that the production, the director doesn't change anything. But I have to serve as that producer and director that has to change shit on the thing I wrote. And so I've learned to accept that and learned that, like, okay, well, this can't be exactly what I thought it was going to be we don't have the budget for it. So I have to adapt and change stuff. And it's funny, I've seen a lot of like the talent go, that's not in the script. Yeah, that. But I've had talent go like, well, the script says this, and I'm like, well, the bank account doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, like it hurts me too. Like, it's like I feel like we're stripping it away, but yeah, man, that's just part of the process is having to change and adapt. I think the biggest thing about being sort of on the more unconventional end of it is, I think the biggest point to speak to that is don't let any excuse stop you from making a film. Like, you know, I don't have enough crew. I don't have a production designer. I don't have a art director. I don't have a this or that. And that's where it's like, well, just make a movie without it.
How big is your core team for this film you're making right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
We got 3 producers, 5 executive producers, a cinematographer. Our crew is usually anywhere from 3 to 6 people, and then sometimes volunteers.
And then different date, not all in one bulk of time. You spread it out.
Right. It started out as weekend shoots, and that's kind of what we've been holding on to. We're supposed to wrap in like early August. Now we're wrapping September 22nd.
But none of that stopped you from trying to make it.
Right. Yeah. So it was even a thing too of like, I knew that the movie was going to cost more than what we had in pocket, because I was an investor and I had 2 other investors who are also producers who are also working on the film. And so it was one of those things where it's like, it's coming down to like crunch time. We got to go. And it's like, everybody thinks we're ready to go. And I'm kind of in the back of my head like, we're not ready. We don't have all the funds. And I was like, screw it, let's just go for it. And so we started going, and lo and behold, that motivated me during the process of shooting, which was probably put way too much stress on me. Because outside of doing our own funds that we were putting in, we tried to do the crowdfunding, which was still active. We were able to find an investor. So that was the point where I was like, if I had not started, I probably wouldn't have had the drive to find the investor.
Yeah.
Or to even pursue it. And so I think
forces you to find a solution.
And also being in the heat of production, like people see the shit you're doing and they're like, they either want to be a part of it, they want to contribute somehow. And that's just how it worked out, man. People saw the big shit we were doing and they're like, you know, our investor, she's one of the sweet, I'm not going to name her, but you'll see her on the credits. One of the sweetest people ever. I went out to lunch, just talked my nonsense, you know, my uneducated sort of nonsense, but from the heart, you know. I might not be the smartest, but I do speak with a lot of passion from the heart. And I think she saw that, and she was like, how much you need for the rest of production? And I told her, and she's like, all right, I got you guys. We'll do this. And so the rest is history. And now we're 7 days over budget, so we need more money.
Yeah.
But again, I'm confident we'll find it. I'm not worried, because I think the stars will align, and you know there's a safety net there if I need to sell some shit.
But this is 14 years in the making.
Yeah, man.
Of being able to talk to investors, being able to put together a lookbook and all the pre-production stuff you've got to do to know exactly how this is all going to play out.
Right.
To have your team in place.
Yeah, that was the hardest part, I think, is having the team, because for so long, I mean, I know that 3 to 6 people isn't a lot. Before that, you know, outside of the corporate stuff, the narrative stuff was like, it was just mainly me or one other person. And we would just hire on crew, and it was like, but it was always hard to trust people, because and I don't think it's anything to do with the personnel we have here in the industry. It was just more for me. It was like, how do you trust somebody to cater to that vision in such a delicate way that you do? And I found that with Jeffrey. Like, I found somebody who was like, man, I want to do like some cool cinema shit, you know, like some visual storytelling. So that happened. It was awesome to meet him, and you know, we almost didn't meet, man. It was had a lot of antisocial behavior, and I think he hit me up on Facebook. I'm like, who's this guy new to town? And he ended up coming by Sable Studios when we had that at the time, and we talked for like 2 hours, and I was like, this dude's pretty cool. We shot the 48 hour. I think that same year, or it might have been the next year, or whatever.
Sean was just reminding me about For Devil in
And
the
we
Sky.
won
He
that.
loved it,
We
yeah.
won that shit, man. So
The
you got to stick with the winning team, I guess.
So to kind of wrap things up, like what are just rapid fire off some things that you would want to teach someone else trying to be a director? What are some tips?
Yeah, if you're wanting to try to be a director, let go of whatever ego you may have, and don't just want to do it because you're a control freak. Do it with excellence. Do it with precision, and try to do it with no matter what any hindrances there may be. Don't let anything stop you. You know, don't and be upfront with people too. Unlike I was, you know, if your dad has to drop you off on a film set, let your actors know ahead of time, maybe. But yeah, have a clear vision and try to understand. You know, you don't have to know everything under the sun, but try to get to a point to where you can at least communicate on the basic level, especially with your like production crew and your talent. But don't speak bigger than you are, you know, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, you're going to have to deliver on whatever you speak. Don't be afraid to innovate. And that's all you got to do is if you do something out of the norm, just say, I'm being innovative. And then everybody loves you, man. Then he created something. So, yeah, be an innovator, be a pursuer, aim to gain the knowledge you need. Learn the conventional methods, and then when you get out in the real world, you might not have all of those tools in your kit when it comes time to make your movie. So, be able to adapt and figure it out yourself, and make new methods, new strategies to see your vision through. People are going to tell you you're probably stupid or you're doing it wrong or whatnot, but at the end of the day, like if you deliver on what you say you're going to do, people will start to respect you. Here I am producing projects now, you know, and got quite a bit of respect and support from the community, which is awesome. And that came through means of like me having this like I can do it no matter what resources I have or and whatnot. But the more, of course, the more resources you get, it does make it easier. But it's almost like fake it till you make it, but don't be fake. You know,
like, okay, there's so many roles that can just be like, this is what you do and how you do it. The director position is, you're kind of like, yes, there are kind of some things that are this is how you do and how you can do it.
Well, I mean, it's like
it's just such a broad spectrum kind of creative answer that you have to give.
And it is
because of the position.
Well, because I mean, if you're a grip, it's like I need you to creatively put them sticks up, put the tripod up. No, you're gonna freaking pull the latches on it and do it. And that's the luxury of being the film director, is that it's not so cut and dry. And if anybody tries to tell you it is, that's just the way they do it. So they're just being protective of their process and their formula. And so develop your own. Yeah.
I do think it is a little more described than a producer. What is a producer?
Producer is like everything.
Everything no one wants to do.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
You're right.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like that and I apologize, guys, on there. Like, if you want to reach out and we can talk about some more direct, like what may be unconventional, but I think at the end of the day, it's like you kind of make it up as you go kind of thing. And yeah, I did have fun talking though. I feel like it was a little more of a deep thinking process for me, self-reflective process.
What's your socials again?
So if you're gonna be on that Instagram, it's gonna be at Big Daddy Director, or at All That Is Evil.
Yeah, that's for the film.
For the movie. And then on Facebook, it's just Silas James Rowland. On Twitter, it's, or X, it's, that's more so, it's cool though, because I've developed like a gaming community outside of being a filmmaker. Like, and so if you want to find me on X, I've been popping it off on there. It's at Mr. Dadbod.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm on YouTube too at Silas. It's spelled Sighlus. I got some short films on there, so check that out.
Yeah. What's the premiere date? 2025 for All Is Evil, or late 2025?
Late 2025 for the streaming release, and then the premiere stuff I'm trying to expedite.
Cool.
Because that's gonna fund paying back some our investors, funding probably 1 or 2 reshoots, and then prepping the actual movie for final distribution.
Love it.
Yeah.
If you want to find all that, you can find it in the notes below or in the show notes on indiefilmhub.org. Thank you again, guys, for tuning in for episode 9. Thank you, Silas, for joining us on this.
Yeah, I would have probably been a little bit more better. Listen to my grammar, man. I write scripts a little more better. If I was
His scripts are better than his dog.
Right. Well, because I actually have time to say, that sounds stupid. Here, it's like it comes out. Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Peace, guys. See you next time.
Yep.